Hello and welcome to this episode of Webchat with by MICA, the Motor Industry Communicators Association. I'm Euan and I'm responsible for training on our committee, which I do as well as my day job at automotive comms agency Talk. It's a pleasure this time to have John Challen with us. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for having me, Euan.
I was hoping you could start with a bit of background on the many different hats that you wear.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently, I'm a freelance journalist, but I'm currently sort of editing quite a few publications at the moment. So I'm editing Fleet World and EV Fleet World, Auto Retail Profit, Transport Engineer, and Operations Engineer. I think that's it. I do. Yeah, and then I also freelance for Electric and Hybrid magazine, and then outside of pure automotive or vehicles transportation, things like the Chartered Institute of Highways and Transportation, and magazines about protein production and a whole range of different things.
I mean, you certainly sound busy, John. There's no doubting of that. Look, I don't want to make you sound old, but I know you've been in the industry for quite a while. Where did the journey start for you in automotive journalism?
So I started out at what was then called UKIP, not the political party, now called UKI. So based in Dorking, publishers of Engine Technology International, Automotive Testing. I was on Tyre Technology International, Electric and Hybrid magazine. So a big B2B based sort of background. That was in 2000 I started. By the time, so 8 years time, I was editor-in-chief of the whole automotive magazines division, which then included Vehicle Dynamics magazine and the International Engine of the Year Awards. And I just basically decided one day that was it, and I just wanted to, I couldn't go anywhere within the company, and freelance sort of seemed appealing, and that was that. Massive decision, didn't feel it at the time, but I probably wouldn't have done it if I'd thought about it, because you're in a nice, safe existence, a staff job and stuff. But haven't regretted it, wouldn't look back. And yeah, since then I've written for a whole host of industries, publications. We set up, myself and Alistair Sutty set up the UK Car of the Year Awards. I've moderated conference sessions. I've written and edited about forensics, stadiums, turf, post offices, God knows, you name it. I've probably written something or read something or edited something along those lines. So yeah, it's been really good, and yeah, a bit of PR along there as well along the way. So yeah, all good. Variety. I love the variety of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if we sort of hone in on the automotive side of things, but even more specifically than that, probably the titles that you're editing at the moment, just because, your net spread so far and wide. I'm not sure I can cover everything off today, but looking at those titles, as you mentioned at the start, could you sort of give a bit of an overview to each publication and maybe some of the topics and things that you're looking for each at the moment, and key news areas?
Yeah, so I guess the main ones are so Fleet World and EV Fleet World, which goes to fleet managers and fleet professionals who are running company fleets, or drivers that are driving the cars. So within that, there are people that need advice on saving costs, running businesses more efficiently, best practice advice and guidance. And the same really with Auto Retail Profit. As the name suggests, it's about helping retailers improve their businesses, increasing profits, improving best practice, and yeah, basically just improving business. I think that because I have had a B2B background, I've learned to sort of focus in on what's important for people. It's difficult to try and get through to, instead of consumer journalism, to try and sort of get people to read the publication, and you almost want it sort of written for the industry, by the industry, for the industry, whichever way it is. So they're the people they're the experts that know everything that's going on. So we try to stay across, all of the main topics. So, for example, with fleets, we'll look at the transition to EVs, what the benefits are, what the challenges are, charging infrastructure challenges. With auto retail profit, there are things about the agency models and trying to control stock, used cars, new cars, prices, ensuring that they can stay profitable. So yeah, I think what we also try and do, it's a very, obviously media is a very competitive area, so we try and sort of look for angles or stories that stand out. So in terms of what communicators can do for us is to sort of come with us with sort of targeted ideas. I know it's difficult to sort of say, here's a bespoke story that only you can run, because that doesn't necessarily work for things. But within fleet and retail, there are a relatively small amount of players that stories can be tailored towards, and then we can run with that and give people, the readers, something that they're not getting in lots of other places, but that's actually useful for them to do their jobs better.
Brilliant. And then on sort of transport engineer, I know you're sort of relatively new to the post.
Yeah.
There, I guess that's looking still fleet of sorts, but maybe more on the sort of commercial vehicle and truck side of things.
Yeah. So Transport Engineer was a magazine I used to edit many years ago, and then I sort of gone full circle and come back to it as initially a caretaker role, and let's see what happens with it. But yes, it's very much looking at bus, coach, trucks, vans, fleet, all of the commercial vehicle areas from an engineering point of view. But again, looking at how fleets can best operate, optimizing prices, minimizing downtime, solutions and ideas from the industry that can help, again, improve efficiency, improve operations, and make fleets run quicker. I think in everything I do, I've never been, because I've had a background in B2B, I've never been one of these journalists who's looking for kind of scoops or trying to catch people out. That's not really my bag. I've had a couple of times where I've sort of stumbled across things that have made really good lead stories or cover stories or whatever. But it sounds a bit cheesy, but I've always been of the opinion that in B2B, they're a community. So if and communications is obviously a part of that, but if I, as an editor or in charge of a magazine, can help impart knowledge and things onto people that can improve their businesses, but also improve other businesses and the industry as a whole, then that's part of the job. So again, it comes back to sort of looking at ideas and stories that will capture the imagination of the reader, because again, there is so much content out there that it's very difficult to attract people's attention. So yeah, try and be different.
Absolutely. And I guess you touched on this here, but given that you're sort of freelance and you're working on many different things at once, do you feel that influences the way that PR should approach you and approach the pitching process over, say, a full-time staffer or somebody that's fully employed on a single publication? Ultimately, what do you need from industry communicators, be it marketeers as well, to help you meet your needs and those of the different titles that you're contributing to?
Yeah, I know. I don't think I'm more than happy to always speak to anyone that's got a story to tell or something that they think would benefit the magazine. It might get a bit confusing sometimes if I'm on doing one thing and I get a phone call or I see an email or request for something that's on one of the other titles. But I've learned to adapt to that. And as a freelance, you're always on the you're doing different, bit like an agency where you're dealing with different clients all the time. And I've spoken to you guys about this before. You can be on one project, and as much as you try and sort of allocate time to that specific thing, you get a phone call or an email or something asks you to do something, you have to kind of jump. But yeah, in terms of you know, the what communicators can do is just sort of have a never be afraid to sort of give me a call or send me an email and have a clear sort of coherent and almost sort of a tailored view of what you want. You know, a number of times I get, you know, classic, you know, dear industry editor or dear this, and I know it's not as easy as this sometimes, but I'm often reading emails from people I'm never quite sure. Maybe it's my fault for doing so many things, I don't know, but I'm never quite sure sometimes which magazine they're talking to. It's like, oh, can we have a copy of your latest media pack? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. And the other thing I think is when sort of speaking to people or coming up with ideas is, again, with B2B, it's putting yourself in the position of the reader and thinking about things that would benefit them and help them in their job, as well as being kind of informative and objective and balanced and all of those things. Is to sort of think, you know, would I, and this is something that goes back to when I first started out, you know, somebody said to me, you know, write something that you would want to read yourself, because, you know, I've time and time again, I've sort of been faced with editorial that's sort of dressed up as advertorial. I say to people, no one's going to read that. They'll just, you know, go straight past it because they'll see through it, because they're not stupid. They know a sales pitch or an advertorial, even if it's dressed up as editorial. So and I just, it goes back to that the thing of B2B and trying to get through to people, and, you know, communicators can help with this in terms of things that stand out. So I almost with Fleet World, I tried to sort of introduce some fun elements to it, like Fleet 15, which is just quick fire question. It's nothing new. I sort of adapted it from somebody and they adapted it from someone else. So it goes back, none of it's rocket science. And we have, you know, Fleet 15, not 15, Fantasy Fleet, which is, you know, an off-the-cuff sort of thing about cars that wouldn't necessarily be fleet cars. I mean, the last one, the one that's in Fleet World that's just gone to press, is about the Playmobil 911 Dakar Porsche. It's just a bit of fun because, again, it's all about trying to get people's attention and, you know, get noticed. But at the same time, that's one side of it. But at the same time is to give the mission critical kind of information or helpful advice and guidance that can help businesses and the people that are reading the magazines in the first place. So yeah, I would say, sort of as a long rambling answer there, but the main thing would be to kind of, as difficult it is when you're kind of trying to juggle so many different outlets, is try and tailor it to things that are to groups of publications that are going to be relevant, and, you know, that it's going to be noticed, rather than you know, things that will fall by the wayside that are so broad that you think, well, you know, that's not going to interest me.
Absolutely. And I assume, given, again, the different hats that you're wearing, that obviously being pitched to by email is probably preferable.
Well, actually, no, I'm old school, so I love a chat on the phone. It might be not the best use of everyone's time, but I do actually find that in a lot of ways it's more productive. So sounds a bit awful, but I'm currently sort of looking after 4 or 5 different email accounts. And that's a lot of emails to go through, and a lot of them just sort of do get deleted a lot of the time because I've seen them across the various different other email accounts. But I had an instance a couple of months ago where somebody, a PR professional, called up and was sort of, we were just chatting, you know, catching up, and then he sort of pitched this story. And maybe it's because I'm more receptive, even though I read stuff all the time for a living, maybe I'm more receptive to actually sort of having a chat. But the way he pitched it as a story was really engaging. And it's the type of thing where if that was all, I mean, obviously you do that thing where you have a chat and then you follow up with an email, that's fine. But had it been just the email, then I'm not saying I wouldn't have read it, but it might have been less likely to have been made into for me to kind of get that understanding. And yeah, and again, the beauty, if you like, of working across different publications or parts of the industry is that if, you know, by talking about an idea or a story or a development or whatever, it may be that we talk about it, or the person is calling from with thinking about one publication, but I'll then think of another way of thinking, well, actually I could get that into, you know, if they're talking from Fleet World, I'm thinking, well, actually that's got a bit of a retail angle, I could put it in there, or there's a bit of commercial vehicle crossover, so maybe it's good for transport engineers. So again, you don't necessarily get that with emails. That only comes from in my opinion, a phone call. And like you say, I'm old and old school, so I'm, you know, I love it. I love a chat on the phone and stuff. So yeah, a lot of the time phoning is good. But then I also realise that for PRs to call up every single journalist isn't sustainable either. But yeah, we're all different. But that would be my almost sort of preferred way.
It's sort of an underappreciated skill these days, isn't it, to sort of pitch via a call, because it's definitely a different sort of skill set and a slightly different skill bank in terms of doing it over the phone with preciseness and with you know, a different approach to sort of really engage you in those first few seconds, I suspect.
Yeah, I think it helps because, again, I've been around quite a long time. I think 24 years or something. So that's how I was sort of bought. My formative years would be, you know, getting a story would be, it wasn't quite before email, but it would be, you know, ringing the press office, what, you know, can you give a comment on this, rather than, you know, straight away. It's nowadays, it's sometimes emails, press releases are sort of edited and stuck up online. There's more of a time pressure thing.
Yeah.
And I've also sort of forged good relationships with people through sort of talking with them on the phone. You know, I could countless times I've had conversations with PR mates, I suppose, that have been, you know, an hour and a half, and we've barely touched on, you know, the reason for them calling, or, you know, a story or whatever, but we have had that has been some element of the call. But it's all about sort of building relationships, and I don't know, worry is a bit of a strong term, but there is an element of we're sort of losing that communication, you know, one-to-one conversation communication, and building those relationships, whether that is because people think they're too busy, or you know, there are time pressures to get stories up and on the website, and you can always sort of edit them if they're wrong or if anything happens and stuff. I don't know, but me personally, I think in the long run, having conversations with people and, you know, building trust, building, you know, a friendship or relationship, or finding out about people that you're engaging with is quite worthwhile from a wider point of view, rather than just, I've got this story, can you publish it? Well, yeah, I can, but let's just sort of, you know, have a conversation and, you know, build it from there.
Absolutely. Of course, we couldn't chat without touching on UK Car of the Year, which we love to support you on at Talk.
You do very well.
That's good. It's going from strength to strength, isn't it? You know, it's as popular as ever.
Yeah, it's really heartwarming. I say, like I said, I mean, it was about just over 10 years ago that Al Sutty and I both sort of independently had this idea that was meant to be sort of nothing more than a bit of fun. I mean, the thing about two of us, I think he would agree, is that we don't have kind of a business sort of driven brain or anything. We're more sort of, you know, we're not commercially minded, we're editorially minded and stuff like that. So it was never the intention. Well, in one way, it was the intention to become like this big sort of what car of the year rival thing, but I think very quickly we found out that it wouldn't quite be as easy as that. But yeah, it has grown, and we're into 10 years, and it's been amazing. It's probably one of, if not the most fun thing I do. And it's also the one time that I get a taste of what it's like to be a PR, because I am, I mean, you know, I've always appreciated how difficult the jobs of PRs and communications is. But when I'm, you know, trying to organise a panel of 30 people, 30 judges, journalists, judges, I'm trying to deal with, you know, getting our own press releases written, liaise with the winning manufacturers to get their communications done, sorting out the trophy handover, a test day. And a shout out to Lauren at GridServe, who we've used a couple of times, because I rock up there with like a notepad and a pen of like the name of the people, when the cars go out, when they come in, and she must look at me thinking, what are you doing? But that's what works for me. But yeah, I mean, this year has been amazing. I mean, Kia EV9 won this year. We had there was sort of press front page newspapers in Korea were talking about UK Car of the Year. There was, you know, I was watching an Arsenal game the other week, and MG were advertising MG4 Car of the UK Car of the Year, which was obviously from last year. And yeah, in terms of the profile, it's just getting more and more, and we're supported now by Hey Car, who do a great job of sort of flying the flag and you know, promoting the awards and talking about stuff like that. And it's yeah, I mean, the advertising is advertising is sort of using logos, and the brand is sort of growing from that point of view, which is something that we've never, you know, been able to sort of really push through. But the last few years, it's been really good. And yeah, I think people appreciate. I'd like to think people appreciate a kind of an independent awards, as well as having the individual magazines awards, of which we have a number of the people that are involved in that from all of the different titles. But to have something as that's independent and brings all of those opinions together is really good, and really good to see.
Absolutely. We're running out of time, but before we sort of finish up, I just wanted to ask you, what if you had to give a communicator who's new to the industry, sort of, you know, as an editor, one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, I've banged on about the phone enough, so I won't say, but one of them would be, you know, don't be afraid to pick up the phone, whoever it is. You know, I years ago, when I was organising, or a part of the organisers of International Engine of the Year Awards, I was talking to these, you know, really high profile journalists around the world. I didn't really have a clue who they were, but I know it's that in that hierarchical thing, you can get put off by speaking to big names, but we're all the same. So yeah, don't be afraid to pick up the phone. And the other thing is, don't overpromise, or if you can't say something, if you can't do something, to just say no. You know, the number of times I will chase people up, and I'll even write in an email or write in a note, you know, if it's a no, then that's fine, but I need to know. So, you know, over promising or under delivering doesn't help anywhere, because, you know, you're stuck. We've got deadlines, I've got deadlines and stories to write, and if I can't get the information, I'd rather know ahead of time rather than at the last minute. So yeah, just honesty, and yeah, try and build those relationships, because you never know where they'll lead.
Absolutely. John, thank you for your time. It's hugely appreciated.
My pleasure.
Where can people listening find and connect with you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, which I use occasionally. My main what do you want, like email addresses and
no, LinkedIn's fine.
Numbers?
LinkedIn's fine for now. I know. Again, you've got so many different email addresses and things.
Yeah, LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm occasionally on. I mean, just drop me a note. Or to be honest, if you just, again, it sounds awful, but if you Google me, there'll be some bit of information with an email address, whether it's UK Car of the Year or whatever. I'll be, the information's out there. My phone number's out there. I don't keep myself hidden much.
No, that's great. Thank you. Well, that's everything from this episode. If you can find out more about all things MICA on our website. That's mica.org.uk, and you can check us out on LinkedIn too. Thanks very much for watching.